The story begins with an unusual situation where the protagonist sees a ray of light at the end of a long blind tunnel. He is skeptical about those rare occurrences where terrified people after coming back from near-death experiences narrate about that eerie light that they witnessed. Until now, the protagonist found it hard to believe that phenomenon, but then he finds himself facing that peculiar situation and wonders whether he is dead. He tries to remember the cause of his death, and the last thing he remembers is that he was all alone in his huge and luxurious room. He recalls his last moments when looking down upon the city from his bedroom window. His body felt heavy while he lay down on his bed. He is perplexed whether he was poisoned or assassinated. He pushes his brain and remembers that he had many enemies. After all, he was the king. When his memory is unable to help him with the answers, he registers that there is nothing he can do about his tragic death. He has no choice but to go along with the flow. He tries to cheer himself up that there might be some chubby angelic babies singing for him at the end of the tunnel. As he nears the end of the tunnel and towards the bright light, he hears someone announcing that a healthy baby boy has been born. The protagonist is unable to figure out the faces since everything is still blurry in his eyes, but he realizes that he might have been reborn. Soon the blurry faces begin to make some sense as there are two people in front of him. Both seem quite excited at his arrival. The protagonist wonders whether the light at the end of the tunnel was actually his entrance point from a woman, but then he shrugs off the trivial idea. One of the blurry faces is of a woman who exclaims about his beauty. Another face is of a jolly man who proclaims the baby has his mother's hair. In a few moments, all the blurriness clears up and the protagonist is able to see the happy faces of his parents. He is glad that no matter where he is, at least he is able to understand the language. He looks at his mother, who has a bright and gentle smile radiating motherly affection, but he cannot help noticing her ethereal beauty. His mother exuberantly mentions to her husband that the baby has inherited his gorgeous blue eyes. Now, as the protagonist looks at his father with a strong jawline and fierce eyebrows, he mistakenly thinks that his father might be quite austere when Ray opens his mouth addressing the protagonist as Art and introducing himself as his daddy. Hilariously, he wonders whether the few minutes old Art could say Dada. Frantically, Art's mother reminds Ray that Art was just born, and he grins goofily. And so Ray's glassy image of being a stern father smashes in front of Art. However, Art is quite satisfied with his surroundings, which seems to be normal to him. But then he glances around and sees some ancient weapons hanging on the wall beside a brightly lit candle. A flabbergasted Art wonders about his whereabouts. Weeks pass by, and Art finds out that although his mother Alice is very gentle, she seems like the power bearer in the household. Also, his father Reynold is a dependable and charismatic man but slightly immature. Art is full of gratitude for being born into a loving family despite having difficulties related to his weak, babyish body. The poor soul has little control over his limbs as he is still an infant. Not only that, but he also has little control over his bodily functions and is dependent on his mother for a rapid diaper change. However, Art blushes and relishes whenever Alice lovingly cleans him up. Still, he feels that since he was a king, his mental stamina has been enhanced as he was the representative of his country. Also, he has the slightest hope that all of this is just a bizarre dream, and so in this way, Art is able to maintain his sanity. Frequently, his mother used to carry him on her market sprees, and he observes that he has been transported to the past in an extremely obsolete era. At the marketplace, he was always astonished to see people carrying weapons so openly, especially huge swords. He also notices elixirs being commonly sold for endurance. He assumes that those vials of suspicious-looking liquid are being sold as illegal medicine. Alice guesses that Art might be exhausted, so she decides to buy 3 elixirs for Ray and head home while Art gives out a tedious expression on his face. As time passes, Art has assessed the surroundings thoroughly and is now confident enough about what to expect. One day, Ray comes home and excitedly picks up Art to his frenzy. It can be seen that in contrast to Ray's exhilaration, Art is not very comfortable in his father's arms. Art's hesitation is proven as Ray tosses Art like a basketball in the air to Alice's horror. She shrieks wildly at Ray to stop his endeavors as he might accidentally drop Art. However, Ray expertly catches a shocked Art in his arms, while Art is helpless due to his weak physical body. Meanwhile, Ray roars in laughter as if he has won a gold medal in the Olympics, but poor Art is reduced to a horrified ball of flesh completely hidden in Ray's muscular arms. Ray proclaims that his father used to toss him like this and is completely oblivious to Art's thumping heart as he falsely conjectures that Art is having fun. But more is about to come for a hapless Art as Ray begins to swirl him around madly like a distorted merry-go-round on the loose while chortling manically. Alice is furious at Ray for being so reckless as Art's face turns blue with all that twirling, and it seems as if he is ready to throw up. Not only that, but Art's knee accidentally brushes against a wall, and a horrified Ray immediately comes to his senses as Art gets all decked up for a power show. In no time, tears begin to well up in his eyes and Art begins to howl like a tornado. After a while, Alice is consoling a wailing Art in her arms while Ray is sent off to the corner, turning to the wall while having 3 beautiful bumps on his head, courtesy of his loving wife Alice. Alice assures little Art that she will fix him in no time, and as her hand is about to touch his wound, a strange glow emits from it. To Art's stupor, that eerie glow healed his wound in seconds. A joyous Alice lifts him up, leaving Art numb with shock. He realizes that he spoke too soon and perhaps he knew nothing about this world after all. In his previous life, Art was a king and led armies. He was so powerful that he outdueled representatives from countries all over the world. Yet out of all his accomplishments, he has never been as proud of himself as he is at the moment. It can be seen that a red-faced Art with pursed lips is exerting himself for something important. The endeavor he has achieved success is crawling. As both his parents watch him proudly, a determined Art with flaring nostrils begins to crawl enthusiastically. Alice advises Ray to keep a watch on Art so that he doesn't accidentally hit his head on a corner. Ray agrees and asks Alice to stop Art from getting near to a shelf. In no time, the cutie crawly bumps at a shiny surface and is startled at his own reflection staring back at him. The simpleton parents ooh and ah at their little one staring himself in the mirror as if he has won some Nobel Prize for inventing it. Art registers that it has been a month and he hasn't still gotten used to his new name. He feels that as a former king, Art seems too cute. Art stares at his reflection and places his hands on the mirror. He stares at himself keenly and admits that he is absolutely adorable. He secretly chuckles and warns the future ladies that they must watch out for his killer looks and be prepared to be heartbroken. While he is making all those comical faces and funny expressions, his parents are enjoying every bit of his actions. Later that night, Alice kisses Art goodnight and puts him in his crib. As soon as the lights are turned off, Art's eyes pop open. He stretches himself to signal that he is all set for a secret mission. Next, he pulls himself out of the covers and throws the bedspread on the ground. Then he struggles to climb up the crib stand and then makes an ominous jump only to land safely on the bedspread. Art is certain that currently, Alice thinks that he is asleep and that he has approximately an hour before she comes to check on him again. Soon he crawls toward his destination silently and passes across the kitchen where Alice is humming while washing the dishes. Reaching the safe zone with his destination closer, he heads towards it at full speed. He reaches the door and cautiously peeks inside to ascertain whether it is empty. He enters the room where a bookshelf is lined with many old books. Some are lying on the floor flipped open and some loose sheets strewn here and there. Soon he punches in the air in triumph, achieving success. Next, he gazes at the shelf, and ever since he discovered this place, he has been sneaking in every night to learn more about this world. Art learned that the continent he was born in is called Dicathen and comprises 3 major kingdoms. The first one is Elenwar, the elven kingdom that lies deep in the forest. Next is the Darv, the vast underground kingdom and home of the dwarves. The third one is the Sapin kingdom where humans live, and it is easily the most populated region. Both Sapin and his previous world had one thing in common, and that is the monarch system. However, in Sapin, rulership is passed down rather than earned. After some time, Art manages to pull out a heavy blue book which pushes him backward to the ground and falls on him with a thud. Also, Art learned that Sapin is quite underdeveloped compared to his previous world. However, he discovered the reason for the lack of technological development, which is magic. Soon he finds the book he has been looking for, which is Beginner's Guide for the Privileged Mage. Art flips open the book and begins to devour the pages. Soon he reaches the page where he left off the last time. Art recalls that in his old life, they had a life force called Kai used by practitioners to strengthen their bodies and weapons through rigorous training. Now Sapin has a similar force called mana. However, unlike Kai, which is present inside a person's body, mana is present in the surroundings. While glued to the pages, Art cutely scratches his buns. He learns that the power to control mana is greatly genetic, so roughly 1 in 100 children possesses it. It appears that poor Art is feeling uncomfortable due to the dreadful diaper rash, and that's why he keeps on scratching his bottom. He continues reading that mana can be used in various ways, and the 2 most common methods are augmenting and conjuring. Augmenters enhance their bodies with mana, allowing them to possess incredible strength, defense, and agility, but they have one drawback, that is their weakness lies in their limited range. Conjurers, on the other hand, emit mana to the outside world, allowing them to control the surroundings according to their own will. However, they must add their own mana core with mana from the outside world to create a magic spell. He learns that Alice belongs to a rare type of mage class who are able to cast unique restorative mana. That special class is called deviant or emitters. According to the book, a mage's first awakening happens in early adolescence to late teenage years when their mana core appears. He recalls that the mana core seems uncannily similar to the Kai Center in his previous life.